Koshelanyk, and I'm an organizer with the International Women's Day Committee in Vancouver. I'm also an organizer with the group Justice for Women, which is another organization which is a part of the International Women's Day Committee. And the International Women's Day Committee has been active in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland for the last 20 years or so, organizing on International Women's Day a rally in March, as well as information fairs and workshops to bring attention to issues that are facing women locally and also internationally on International Women's Day, which is March 8th. And for many years, the issue of missing women in the east side of Vancouver has been one of the major issues that's been discussed and highlighted on International Women's Day. And so there have been many speakers and workshops and information that's been disseminated about this issue in particular, because for women in the Vancouver area, the issue of violence against women and missing women in the downtown east side is very, very significant.
And I'm Nita Palmer, and I'm also an organizer with the International Women's Day Committee and with Justice for Women. I think that this is, as Kira said, a very important issue for us to be addressing here. There are currently 59 missing and murdered women in the downtown east side of Vancouver, 59 that we know of, as we can see on this Missing Women Task Force poster. And I think that this is a very important issue, not just for women to address, but for our society to address in general. Really, the question is, why are there so many of these missing and murdered women? The downtown east side of Vancouver is notorious as the poorest postal code in Canada, the poorest neighborhood in Canada. And there is a lot of problems of poverty and drug addiction there, and other things. But the question of this attack specifically, of these acts of violence specifically, are not a question of generally an attack on poor people, but specifically on poor women in the downtown east side. Really, I think the fundamental issue here is a lack of security for women in general, and this includes issues of violence against women and issues of poverty for women. Violence against women in BC in particular is a huge problem. Statistics Canada reports that 59% of women in BC will face at least one act of physical or sexual violence in their lifetime. In Canada, 1 in 4 women are sexually assaulted. And we've seen other examples recently, locally. Just 1 year ago, in Vancouver's east side, near 29th Avenue SkyTrain station, there were 7 women who were brutally attacked and robbed. And we can see that this was an example of violence against women that is prevalent everywhere in our society. And so we can see that the issue of violence against women and women's security is a general problem in our society, in Canada. But in the downtown east side, this issue is exacerbated even more by the specific social conditions that exist there, including huge poverty, including HIV and AIDS infection rates, other healthcare issues, drug addiction, all of these kinds of things. This is also an issue when it comes to the missing women of something that has particularly affected Indigenous women or Native women in the downtown east side. In the downtown east side, generally there is a disproportionate representation of Indigenous people that live there and that face a lot of poverty. And out of these missing women, 31% of the missing women are Indigenous women, even though they represent Indigenous people represent only 3% of the population of Canada. But we can see that this is an issue that affects affects women and also particularly indigenous women in this case. This was something that was responded to very poorly by authorities. For example, TransLink, that runs the buses and SkyTrains in Vancouver, issued a statement saying that they weren't going to increase policing or staffing around that SkyTrain station specifically because they said that the number of attacks on women there was negligible. The police response was also very minimal and reflected the fact that there is no emphasis put on protecting women. There were signs put up saying things like, don't carry a purse, don't wear your iPod while you're walking, and one day they handed out pink whistles. And it took them a month after the initial attacks for them to do this, but it really showed the lack of concern for women's rights. It took how many years and how many women going missing, how many people calling for investigations for finally the Missing Women Task Force to start looking into these cases of missing and murdered women. I think that the question also of as Kira explained, like the lack of investigation is a very important question because the Vancouver Police Department, the main office of the Vancouver Police Department is located right in the heart of the downtown east side, right in the heart of this problem. And so there's these women going missing on their doorstep, and there's a total lack of investigation.
Aside from that too, though, is that even if the investigation itself is very flawed and slow to respond, our question is, why haven't the police been protecting these women before they are attacked? Why isn't there, if there is such a huge police presence in the downtown east side, why are women still attacked and why are women still going missing? Those things expose the fact that the Vancouver Police Department is not doing its so-called job to serve and protect